Hi all, I'm Libby, proud captain of Millwall Lionesses. Thank you to our Millwall fan show from the No One Likes Us Talking team for sponsoring me this year. Make sure you give them a listen like I do. Or even better, why not sponsor a Lioness while you're at it like they do? Thank you always for your continued support.
This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It is the first show of COVID-19 in lockdown 3.0 here in England. I'm your host, Eamon Barclay, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Jeff Burnage.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Well, hello. A little bit short on the facts of what happened against Coventry, I think, somehow. Our 1-2 defeat was our last match and our first match back after the team had gone through the COVID process of isolation. Gary, what did you make of our return to football?
Main word, frustrating. I personally thought, right, we've had a rest, we're fresh as we could be after COVID, I suppose, and we'd come out and just pummel them. But it was the complete opposite. We didn't hit the ground running. We were slow. We were sluggish. Maybe like Gary Rowett said, it had some effect, but I don't know. I really don't know. Me and my dad were watching it as we always do on a Saturday on the screen now, and we were just screaming because it was just so frustrating. I just couldn't understand. I think there are one or two players out there that aren't up to it. But as Gary said, maybe he had to play certain players because maybe they weren't fit or well enough. So maybe that was his hand turned and he didn't play the team he wanted to play.
Okay. Hi, Ted. There was lots of calls for all sorts of strange things, from Rowett out to let's play the youngsters and anything other than what actually happened on the day. But what's your take on those sort of things?
Well, let's get one thing straight here, Eamon. As we all know, with a fully fit squad to choose from, Gary Rowett and Millwall are at least a top half team in this division. They've proven that over the last, in Gary Rowett's time. Even this year we've been sort of difficult to beat, but not winning enough games. The trouble is, a bit like Gary said there, I think we all sort of looked at them being off for the two games that they was and see it as a rest period, if you like to put it that way. But in actual fact, there was guys that had COVID. Now, all I can say is they came back in that first half on Saturday. They looked like they had the whole team had either had COVID or the other, apart from the ones that did have COVID, the other half had been to a really good New Year's Eve party because they looked like they just wasn't with it. Yeah. It wasn't a typical Millwall performance. There's been two really bad games that we've had. The Middlesbrough away game, and everybody wanted to get rid of the three at the back then, when up until then, Alex Pearce, Sean Hutchinson and Jake Cooper had probably been one of the best defensive partnerships or trebles that you could come up with. Bart and his clean sheets proved that. But they had one bad game against Middlesbrough. Everybody wanted to get rid of that. We done exactly the same on Saturday with a 4-4-2. We was just awful for the first half. There was no other words for it. You can't hide anything from it. It was what it was. There was better signs in the second half. Kenny Zuhor, when he came on, looked like the sort of player that we believed that he is. Troy Parrott, I thought, started to look a little bit more like the player that we've all heard about. So there was little positives at the end in the second half to take away from it. Not a lot, because it was a poor performance. But listen, we need everybody back fit and firing. And as soon as that happens, I believe the draws that we've been having to start turning into wins, and we'll be all right. We will be all right. We're a better side than the last few games have shown. But I say that, the games before the one Saturday, we drew with Forest and beat Bristol City. So we were sort of coming out of it. But there's nothing other to say than the first half we was absolutely awful. against Coventry. But you can't start going overboard about these things, in my opinion. I've seen rubbish written about Woods is an awful player. No, he's not. He's a good player. But he had an awful game. I will say one thing. I don't think him and Williams fit. You've either got to have one or the other with Leonard or someone like Leonard, whether it's Thompson. And I think to myself, but the biggest disappointment for me on Saturday was that Gary Rowett didn't sort of realise early enough and change his tactics quick enough, stop Coventry from using, and certainly their right back, who was their main sort of threat going forward. He did it in the second half when he brought Malone on, but it was obvious after 20 minutes that our back four wasn't coping with it. Our middle four weren't coping with it. Woods and Williams were being passed around by neat little 1-2s by the Coventry players. We had to match them up. We had to get Malone out there to stop that right back coming forward. But it took him till half-time to do it. And it was quite obvious within the first 15, 20 minutes that was a problem. So there was disappointments all round. I'm sure Gary Rowett's probably kicking himself and saying I should have done that earlier. But, hey, look, we got to move on. We've got a banana skin coming up Saturday. Bournemouth away on Tuesday night. And I should tell every Millwall fan, and I'm sure they know it, put your money on Millwall to beat Bournemouth because they're bound to do it.
Sounds good to me. Jeff, what would you put down as being the sloppiness in our defence? I mean, it literally could have been 5-0 at half-time, and 3 of those goals could have been scored by Jake Cooper.
I thought Ted was very kind in his assessment of the team there. I don't think it is a given that at our best we're a top-half team. I think we probably are, but I don't think it's a given. But, we football fans, we do tend to go up and down game by game, even half by half sometimes. And you can't judge on one game. You've got to judge over a period of games. And it is true, our last couple of games before then, we'd done okay. Then before that, we had a horror show against Middlesbrough. Before that, we lost at home to Derby in another poor performance. So you've got to take it over a run of games. And because sometimes the factor that's made you play brilliantly or badly isn't obvious to us fans. And that looked like a COVID match to me. We aren't as bad as we looked in that first half. No shots at all, 9 shots to Coventry. And that's shocking, that really is. And I had a quick look. Unlike me, I looked on Facebook and, well, the fans were not happy, were they, at all? And no. I just think, let's just give it a period of games. 1 win in 13 is a period of games. I think they've got a bit of convincing to do. And we don't know whether the team selection was very, very influenced by COVID. It looked to me like it might well have been. One thing I did think that Ted got right, and I think Gary referred to as well, one bit of good news is that against what people were expecting, looks like Troy Parrott is going to stay. I'll only be sure of that once it passes January the 31st. And if Ken Zahor is still with us, and that's a decision, I think, for us, in a way, rather than West Brom, well, we'll soon see whether the fault is the strikers aren't good enough or the service they get isn't good enough. That will be the proof of that pudding will be in that eating, won't it?
Yeah, there's definitely a question mark over those two aspects. Are the strikers good enough or is the service good enough? And it looks like we're going to reinforce in those areas. But for now, we'll pick some of that up with our next guest shortly. But for now, let's listen to Aisling.
Hi, Aisling here. Since the first lockdown, you have heard our Bethany Warren continue to say that we were waiting to return with Love Sport Radio. This was because owner Kelvin McKenzie said it was taking a break back in April due to COVID-19 and would be back when normality returned to the marketplace. From 31st December, Love Sport Radio has ceased transmission, marking the end of the road for the service. Kelvin McKenzie's closing words to radio today were, "COVID killed the radio show. Commercial revenues collapsed in March. The radio business, especially small radio, is taking a terrible hammering. We enjoyed our experience with the Love Sport Radio team and thank them for their support when working with them at the studio and since. For now, we will continue to broadcast our show as we have done since last April, and we thank you, the listeners, for your continued support. Onwards and upwards.
I'm Eamon Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Jeff Burnage. Don't forget, you won't find any of our current shows at Love Sport Radio anymore because it's gone. But you can find us on Spreaker, Millwall No One Likes Us Talking, or via our website and through all the popular podcast outfits that exist. Our first guest has a familiar voice to many more Millwall fans now than pre-pandemic. He is also a well-known voice to BBC Radio London listeners too. He follows Millwall home and away, except for this Saturday, with his talkative colleague Max. He is famed for many things, from breaking furniture at away grounds to winning a teapot on the Countdown TV show. It is that man that we follow when match day comes. As the voice of Millwall I follow, welcome once again, Carl Bates.
Your introductions get worse, Eamon, they really do. Of all the things I think I'll ever be introduced as, the chair, or he fell off it, or Norwich's nightmare, or whatever that may be, the Carrow Road calamity, I don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting evening over there. Yes. So thank you for bringing that up again. You're not the only one.
Good evening, Carl. It's Jeff here. How are you?
Hello, Jeff. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You can tell me. I'm sure everybody else knows except me. Can we get that game on Saturday on iFollow?
No, not at all, I'm afraid. The problem is at Boreham Wood, there's very limited. I don't know, I haven't read the official report. But basically, with Boreham Wood, the limitations there, obviously, with the club that it is, I think there's only like one ISDN point, and I think 5 Live have got that, or whatever it may be. Unfortunately, we simply just can't get in, unfortunately. So, yeah, I shall be like yourselves, tuning into the television and cheering on the boys from home.
It may be a blessing not being able to see it.
You never know. I've got a statistic for you that I was going to give you, Carl, and I'll give that to you towards the end. Anyhow, before Jeff can ask you about Rachel Riley, because I'm sure that would be coming up again, here we are back in lockdown for the 3rd time. Now, this pandemic is affecting the game. The crowd being the 12th man is no longer applicable. People believe that players are not as driven. The impacts of the virus breakout at clubs are just but a few issues. Do you think it realistic for football to continue, given your knowledge of the arrangements that clubs put in place?
It's a good question. I definitely think that not having the 12th man has put pay to a lot of results for Millwall at home. I think there'll be a lot more wins than draws. You look at a couple of the games that Millwall have dropped points in at home with a crowd. I think the Lions would have got over the line. I actually think they'd have beaten Coventry as well. So I don't think Coventry would have been able to get away with the amount of time they had on the ball and the way they were eased into the game. As for can football continue, I don't think. I think it will. I think by hook or by crook, due to mainly I know it sounds awful considering we're talking about a pandemic, but I think because of the financial implications, if you've got the Euros coming up, who qualifies for relegations, promotions, various sponsorship deals either through the television or for the individual club, to try and stop that, I think would cause so many ramifications going forwards. I think they will get through it, muddle through it, should I say, for the end of the season. But as for the actual players not being driven, I wouldn't say that's the case. I think the amount of games that the players are going through and probably only having limited recovery periods, they may look like they're going through the motions, but for Millwall with a small squad, I'd just generally say they're tired. You look at the Jed Wallaces of the world, whose game's based on high impact up and down the wings for 90 minutes. Unfortunately, with Mahoney being injured, I think Connor would have took some of the workload off him. So I think Jed, is an easy example of players just being basically running out of steam, running on empty. So it may look like they're not driven. I think they're just shattered, in all honesty.
So, Carl, we were discussing whether we thought that performance was down to COVID. Of course, we don't know, but what's your impression? Do you think that the performance of the team and of individuals was as a result of COVID in the camp?
Can't see how it would have helped. Obviously, some of the players, I didn't get the exact details of which players it was, but some players obviously were quite affected by the COVID-19, and that can't help, especially in training. You're going to come back still not feeling 100%. If you're coming back from the flu, we all know that for a week or so you're not feeling your best. So to come back from COVID and not feel your best and then have to perform at a high level playing football must be, well, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say for the Coventry game it was purely down to that. I think a lot of it's confidence. It's becoming, I think, a mental issue that Millwall are struggling at the Den. Other teams are playing better than normal at the Den, as in because the crowd aren't there, players are playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more freedom. I wouldn't necessarily say it's COVID. I don't think that helped, but I think it's just a lack of confidence, really, that seems to be affecting the side. And as I mentioned, fatigue, although, granted, and I'm sure people will be saying when they listen to this, well, hang on a minute, they had 14 days in between. Coventry played games week in, week out. So maybe they were a bit rusty as well because they hadn't played together. I just think there's a number of reasons. COVID wouldn't have helped, but I would not just pin it on that. It was a poor performance, but no, I wouldn't put it down to that. And I don't think the players would want that as an excuse either.
We are rumoured to be chasing a couple of new signings at least, Carl. Where, from your perspective, is it essential that we, as Gary Rowett expresses, inject some new blood in the side? Where do you think we need it the most?
Good question. I would say, I know it's going to sound like a cracking politician's answer, but I'd say personally squad depth. I think when you look at Millwall, a couple of injuries here and there, and suddenly it's almost square pegs in round holes. So I think a couple of extra players in various positions, even, well, across the lines. Defensively, we've been very solid until recently, shall I say. But nonetheless, Cooper and Hutchison can't play, well, or could do with a break every now and again. I know Murray Wallace can move inside, Alex Pearce can come in, and then you could maybe go to the fullbacks. I mean, Hayden Muller did a good job actually at right back the odd time he has played there. Billy Mitchell has played there. Ryan Leonard has played there, so they can support Marlon when he's struggling either through injury or fatigue. You've got central midfield, a couple of options at the moment. I'd imagine that will be somewhere that Gary will want to improve, or at least get more players in there, because Sean Williams isn't getting any younger, bless him, so he's not going to be able to play Wednesday, Saturday. Ryan Woods is very much a player that needs legs around him, and there's only so many games Leonard or Ben Thompson can do that. And then obviously up top, with the way that Millwall are set up, if they go with three forwards with the likes of Jed and Mason either side, then we've got Matt Smith, who offers you one thing, offers you a great aerial threat, but can't start the press further forwards. You've got Bradshaw, who is a really sharp finisher, but he's no threat at all in the air. It's actually worked out very well with Bavardson and Bradshaw recently. I was really pleased to see that coming off, because they're both generally nice guys. They both work hard for the team, and to see them working well together, getting the results that we did at Bristol City, and then, unfortunately not picking up full points at home the next game. It's just one or two. I wouldn't say it's a mass overhaul. We need to get rid of everybody, sort of wipe the chalkboard and then start again. I'd just say generally squad depth. Whenever I'm doing my research for games, I go on other teams' websites or look on various different websites, and you can just see other teams. I mean, Norwich's one went on forever. I could not believe how many players they've got. And that's the difference. They can make 4 or 5 changes. It doesn't affect the team.
Gary said, Cole, that he was looking to have everybody under pressure for their position, basically. I mean, I think that's the reason Danny McNamara has come back from St Johnstone. Although, like you quite rightly said, everybody that's filled in for Marlon hasn't done a bad job, in my opinion. But I wouldn't say any of them are pushing Marlon for his spot, if you know what I mean. Danny McNamara being back at the club may well just be pushing Marlon for his spot. But I think that's what Gary wants across the squad.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. You can't have too many players, in theory. As long as you can keep the sort of dressing room or the squad happy, the more the merrier. So, yeah, if he can get in a few more players, that can only be good for the club. Indeed.
Before I ask my question, Cole, did you feel a bit sorry for Murray Wallace on Saturday? He was just having he had a very poor game like everyone else, but
he's called a mare. He was having a mare.
And he just ended up getting just bummed by two. Well, it's been slow twice. Do you think?
I think I wouldn't say he had a mare. I'd say that he was just completely outnumbered. I think Dabo and I think it was Callum O'Hare sort of doubled up on him. And Mason Bennett was, I presume, been asked to play a bit further forwards, and he was just getting isolated so often, and he's getting caught in two minds. O'Hare was sort of dropping in to this, shall we say, normal left back against the left back position, while Dabo was pulling right out to the side as a wing back. And so Murray Wallace, should I say, do I stick with O'Hare, but then Dabo's going straight past me if I come out? He's just playing the ball inside to O'Hare. Millwall just needed to be a bit quicker getting across the pitch to support Murray Wallace. I felt for him in that sense. It was almost mission impossible. Which one do you mark when two of them are flying past you? Yeah. It was almost heads or tails. And Coventry were clever enough. They worked that out early. And they got some good players. I'm very surprised when I was doing the stats before the game at how poor they were on the road and how they'd struggled to score. And then you actually watched them, and some of the interplay that they had was actually very impressive. And we did definitely struggle, especially first half.
Is it a one-match ban because it was 2 yellows? Or is it 3?
I believe, I don't know 100%, so please don't quote me on it, even though unfortunately this is going out, so you can. I believe it's 1. I believe.
So
I'd agree.
The FA Cup game was probably a good one to miss then. That's absolutely bad. Especially with who we're up against as a left back. Obviously, we've got Malone there who can play there. So yeah. All right, then, Cole. But do you reckon Gary should be giving some of the younger players a bit more starts, or it's just one of those questions at the moment? We were discussing it off air before we started, Cole, and basically saying, look, should we be playing them? If we were really, really poor, would they go straight into the team? Like I think Jeff mentioned the players back in the 70s. Jeff, remind me of the names. Gone completely blank.
I was just saying that if you sign players like when we signed Phil Walker and Trevor Lee, they came from Epsom and Ewell, no background really, but the first team was so poor that Gordon Jago could put them straight in the team. That really isn't the case when you've got a decent-sized squad and some experienced pros. So that's what I was saying before, Gary. Yeah,
but if you're saying, though, Cole, that we have got such a small squad, like you're saying about Norwich, maybe we should be bedding 1 or 2 more into the squad a bit more. Or, you may know this, is Gary a bit wary of playing inexperienced at a time when we're struggling at the moment?
I don't know Gary's individual thoughts on the younger players within the team. I know he's mentioned, and I think we can all see it, the potential there of the likes of Billy Mitchell, Hayden, Tyler, etc. It's such a fine line with younger players. You don't want to throw them in and they struggle and then people mark their cards out. They can't cut it, they ain't good enough. And they disappear out on loan, or confidence-wise for themselves, they really struggle. You can get the opposite. They come in, hit the ground running, look great, and it's they are now suddenly a genuine contender for a position in the starting 11. And I suppose he's going to err on the side of caution, trust the players he knows. I mean, he's given Tyler quite a few minutes here, there and everywhere. I think when Billy Mitchell comes back, I think Billy will get a lot of game time almost straight away. Gary rates him very highly. With younger players, it's such a tough call. And also it's the mentality of the players. I don't know them personally to know how mentally strong they are, how mentally tough they are. Are they banging the door down saying, look, we're not getting results, I want a place in that starting lineup? Or are they one of those players that seems to be lacking a bit of confidence and you only want to give them 5-10 minutes because you don't want to ruin that fragile confidence they already have? I think they'll get more games like Tyler. He's been on the subs bench and regularly getting brought on quite late in games. I would like to see him come on a bit earlier. But yeah, it's a fine line with younger players, I think. And I think, yeah.
Do you think Tyler will get the start of the weekend?
I think there'll be quite a few changes. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a start. I think there will be changes. I don't know how many. One I wouldn't mind seeing, actually, is give Bart a rest. Give him the day off and give Frank Field the day.
Yeah, Frank deserves a go after being loyal to the club, doesn't
he? Yeah, and also I think I can't do Bart any harm just to finally put the gloves up for a day and actually watch the game. from the sidelines instead of being in the firing line. So
Can I just come back and say, I know I said that Murray Wallace had a mare, but you quite rightly pointed out, Cole, that he was exposed. And that leads me to another thing, that the one disappointment, apart from the fact that we wasn't playing well at all, and we all know that, was that Gary never changed the system. I thought it was pretty clear to me within 20 minutes of that game that Darbo was having a field day, mainly because of what you were saying. And in the second half, it's no surprise when Scott Malone come on that we didn't see as much of him. So do you think Gary maybe, I'm sure he's probably critical of himself, but I just felt he should have changed it earlier because it was so obviously going wrong?
Yeah, it might have been a problem. Again, I've no idea behind the zone. I have no inside knowledge on this. But with you, as we mentioned earlier on about players that have had COVID, I don't know, maybe Scott Malone, or he might have had a knock. Maybe Scott Malone couldn't last 60, 70 minutes, and maybe he wasn't even sure he could last 45, but he felt there needed to be a change. I don't know how much his hands were tied in regards to injuries and people recovering from...
you're right there, Cole. But having said that, there was also Fergie on the bench as well. That's why, we had 5 substitutes, and with 5 substitutes to me, I wouldn't mind seeing a substitute in the first 20 minutes if the system's not working. Or the opposition system was blatantly overpowering Yawn.
Ted, when you've got 5 subs on the side, you can do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Gal. We had 5 subs. We had 2 that played in the wing-back position on the left-hand side. Darbo was causing us all sorts of problems. Murray Wallace, bless him, and I'll take it back, he wasn't a mayor as such. He was exposed, which is probably a better way of putting it. That's why Cole's a commentator and I'm not. He was exposed. But we had 5 subs, and I just felt we could have brought one on then just to counteract what was actually happening out on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it happen before, haven't we? We've seen Alex Pearce been sacrificed during a first half when things haven't been going well. It is something that Gary, as a manager, tends to wait, and normally you don't see a substitution at the most half-time, if not around the hour mark. So it must be something within his genre that he thinks that, I can give this time. I trust the players I've picked. He may have said to them, he may have tried to change the tactics during the game, but it wasn't working. And so at halftime, he could say, right, you're not doing what I've asked you to do. I'm now going to make the changes. This is what I'm going to do now. I think everybody, and I'm sure Gary could have seen it as well, that the problem was coming down Millwall's left. They were doubling up. So Dabo had a great game, had the freedom of South London to create havoc down that side. He might have been screaming instructions at various players, do this to stop that, and they just couldn't carry it out, and hence why he made the changes that he did. But yeah, as you say, I think everybody watching the game could see that, Murray was just getting 2-on-1 every single minute of the game almost.
You're saying about giving Bart a rest, but do you think without Bart this season we'd have had a few heavier defeats, Cole?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Bart is, one of the best signings that Millwall have made. Well, I think one of the best signings, should I say, Neil Harris has made, considering when Millwall brought in Bart, there was so much scepticism about him with his injury and why are we chasing this keeper from Ipswich, when I think somebody put up a blooper reel on Twitter trying to get that going around. Oh my God, why are we getting this player? But Neil knew he was the man he wanted. And Bart, since he's come in, the amount of clean sheets that he's kept, and what tops off the clean sheets that he makes is that quite often he doesn't actually have that many saves to make. But when they do come up, he pulls off worldies, and he's had literally nothing to do for an hour due to the back four. And suddenly there'll be a 20-yarder heading for the top corner, and he's there to flick it over the bar. So it goes without saying. You look, I mean, him and the goalkeeper from Swansea, that his name is, forgive me, have got the most clean sheets in 2020.
Woodman.
Yes, that's the one.
Freddie Woodman.
That's the one. So it goes without saying, if you keep that many clean sheets, then you're helping the team and stopping us losing games that we would have done 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever that may be. He's a brilliant keeper. So absolutely delighted we've got him, as I'm sure the defence in front of him feel the same.
Well, there's some fantastic views from you once again, Carl. But there's a couple of questions just before you dash off. The first one is, so what's this book you've got coming out?
Right. I'm in the middle of writing it. Basically, it's a book that I'm called Fitting In, which is all about how I dealt with epilepsy whilst becoming a football commentator. So you've also almost got them running parallel to each other. You've got when I had my first seizure to how I felt after that, some of the problems that I had in regards to not being able to drive for a year, the natural fear that it puts in you becoming epileptic because you're just leading your life as normal as you are, and suddenly you're in hospital and you've no recollection of anything at all in between the two. The natural panic that puts in, oh my God, what's going on? Am I going to have loads of seizures? Do I need to take medication? Am I going to die? Is it a brain tumour? Is it this? Is it that? All of these worrying things coming into your mind. And basically how I went from a blithering wreck to, right, I need to deal with this. I need to carry on in life. I cannot sit here forever worried about something that may never happen again. And then a few years later, I started doing hospital radio and then basically running them together where where I'm going in regards to my radio career, but also having the setbacks of living with epilepsy and having seizures and running them together. So it shows that as an epileptic, you can still achieve your dreams in inverted commas and nonetheless live with 600,000 people in the UK have epilepsy. It's incredibly common, but it's so rarely spoken about because, let's face it, it's an embarrassing condition. At the end of the day, if I have a seizure, unfortunately, I will lie on the floor, I will shake, my eyes will go in the back of my head, I'll bite down really hard on my tongue, make random noises, and naturally, and quite rightly, 95% of epileptics don't like talking about things like that. But I feel that I'm an ambassador for Epilepsy Action, so I talk about it all the time to help people hopefully dilute the fear. The more you talk about anything, the better or less scary it becomes. And so I thought if I bring a book out that also keeps it interesting, because we talk about football, and yes, the Norwich chair incident will be in the book. So it just, makes it more lighthearted than it would be just me talking about epilepsy, which if you just ran it as a solo book about that would probably be quite depressing.
Well, that's something that you, as you say, you've been involved with for quite a long time, and many people have quoted you for what you've done and said, and I think it'll be a fascinating book when it does come out. And you'll have to come back and tell us about the finished product, that's for sure. But I suspect we'll see you a long time before that as we head towards the end of the season. In the meantime, of course, the other thing that I want to ask you, and I'll give you that stat. It's 100 years ago this week since Millwall lost their first FA Cup game to a non-league side.
Is it really?
They lost 3-0 against the then Lincoln City, who weren't in the league, at the Den.
Oh, right.
Yeah, quite an incredible turnaround, because they just joined the league in 1920, which was a bit later than many. Jeff will tell you a wonderful story about that somewhere along the line. But that's a good stat.
Was Jeff there?
Eh?
Was Jeff there?
Well, now that was a bit unfair. Poor old Jeff. He'll come off the system if you say things like that.
What I want to know is whether Carl worries about finding himself in hospital after the Boreham Wood game.
Yes.
That's why we're pretending that I can't get in. It's for my own health and safety. I'm not allowed.
What is your forecast for that game? Come on, I want a solid prediction for Boreham Wood away on Saturday.
A solid prediction. Okay, I would personally. By the way, when we talk about various stats and what have you, one of the ones you can have is that I believe a Tottenham loanee called Harry Kane, when he played in the FA Cup for the first time for Millwall, I think he got a couple of goals against a non-league side, if my little brain serves me correctly.
Good stuff.
And so I will go with Millwall to win 2-0, and let's if he's allowed to play, and I'm sure he would be, Troy Parrott to get both of them.
Well, that's a very, very reasonable prediction, and as I say, it really is great to have you on again. Thanks for that, and for what Max and you do on iFollow. We will undoubtedly get you back. as the season heads to its end. But keep it safe up in the commentators area at Bournemouth on Tuesday, won't you?
Yeah, I will.
Good. Cheerio, Carl. Thanks again, mate.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah,
It was a pleasure.
Thanks
for having us on.
All the best, mate.
Cheers now.
See you Tuesday.
Bye.
Right, we'll take a break there and listen to Kai Bennett and his Millwall Fan TV.
Hello, I'm Kai. I run Millwall Fan TV. I have done for about a year and a half now. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. If you just search in Millwall Fan TV, I should come up. You can also find me on YouTube at Millwall Fan TV. I do pre-match predictions, post-match analysis and full-time reaction. I also try to do as many interviews on ex-Millwall players. I've done about 10 so far and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for all your support. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, it's Millwall Fan TV. All your support is always massively appreciated. Thank you.
I'm Eamon Barclay and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Gary Staff, the freshly returned Ted Robinson and Jeff Burnage. That was Kai Azur, as I called him, and just for everybody else's info, he never complains about that. Next up, we recognise the feat of one of our current squad as he completed a new record for the club back in September. Jeff Burnage is going to talk briefly about the last two holders of this prestigious title and also our new record holder for the highest number of caps whilst playing for Millwall. Over to you, Jeff.
Well, this does not involve me going back to us being beaten by Lincoln in 1920, and I can tell you that I definitely was not there.
Oh.
Even my dad wasn't born. So I take great offence at that. Although I did have to tell Eamon that he meant to say since we joined the Football League, because in our early days, of course, a lot of clubs were non-league clubs, including ourselves. So that was the first time after we joined the Football League. Hopefully it won't be repeated on Saturday, although those of us that remember Woking, Slough Town, etc. have got the collywobbles. Shane Ferguson, new record holder, 25 caps while playing for Millwall, quite a few while playing for Newcastle, but the stats are for games when you are playing for Millwall. So 25, overtaking David Ford, who I'm pretty sure earned all of his caps, 24 of them while playing for Millwall, and he in turn overtook Eamon Dunphy, who had 23 caps. And here's one for the Statos in the 1960s. My memory is that he played once while he was with York City, but I'm sure someone can confirm that or otherwise. He had 23 caps. So who will the next one be to overtake Shane Ferguson? I wonder. So,
better sign another Irishman then, better we?
Well, but as far as I know, it's Ferguson, Ford, Dunphy. I've enjoyed all three of those players and always proud when they play for their country.
Excellent stuff, Jeff. Well, that leads nicely into our next item. You'll remember that on our Christmas Eve show, we had two chances to win a prize. All you had to do is answer a question, and to win an A4 frame print of the name Millwall on what could be described as something like a Marmite jar, with the words, "I love it," below, as donated by Silver Fox Creations of Bexley Heath, Paris and New York. The question for that prize was, who is our most capped player whilst playing for Millwall? Is it David Ford, Shane Ferguson or Eamon Dunphy? Thanks to Jeff, we have confirmed it as Shane Ferguson. Now to draw the winner. Gary, select a number between 1 and 247.
My birthday, 13.
Unlucky for some, 13. So Gary's gone for 13. You'll have to just give me a second as I scroll through who is number 13. Yeah, the winner of the A4 frame print of the name Millwall on what could be described as something like a Marmite jar is in fact Mark Culverson. Congratulations, Mark. Well done. We'll be in touch by email over the weekend to get your prize to you. Yeah, you'll enjoy that. All from that wonderful company, Silver Fox Creations. Our second prize up for grabs was a copy of Brian King's autobiography, The Lion's King, that is available from littlehellbooks.com. And here is the question that Brian posed.
Hi, Brian King here. The guys have a copy of my autobiography to give the lucky winner of the following question. What was the name of the team I played for before joining Millwall?
And the answer was Chelmsford City. Ted, would you like to select a number between 1 and 409?
266.
266, right?
That's my one, if I remember rightly.
Was it your one, 266? I'll have a look in a minute. The winner of the Lion's King is Melissa Sargent. There you go, Melissa. Congratulations and well done.
Melissa. I know Melissa very well. She's a very, very lovely lady.
Yeah, I think if I'm right, my memory tells me that she's a nurse.
She is.
Oh,
yeah.
I looked to her mum as well. She's been an avid Millwall supporter for a very long time. And we've been going, when we was young, we used to travel down with a young lady called Jo as well, Jo Grubb. We used to all travel on the away games together. So, hello, guys.
There you go.
Well, Melissa owes me a free bandage somewhere along the line then.
I reckon she does somewhere along the line. Congratulations, Melissa. Once again, we'll be in touch with you by email over the weekend to get your prize to you. Thanks for all your entries, and listen out to hear what we have up for grabs later this month. OK, we'll take a break there before we hear from a Millwall fan who was honoured by the Queen in this year's New Year's Honours list. But first, here is Bethany Warren asking you to be somebody else's eyes.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available number.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Gripped image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Be My Eyes is displayed on the Lionesses shorts this season. Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I'm Eamon Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Jeff Burnage. I've downloaded that app. It's most worthwhile for those who use it, even more so in lockdown. But I've had a couple of calls, both from partially sighted individuals who wanted confirmation of information, the small print. Give it a go if you can, it's a great help. Now that brings us to our second guest this evening, and he's a former London firefighter, goalkeeper and coach, funeral director, voluntary helper, fundraiser, and no stranger to our show. Busy times again for his family funeral directors. Here's a man whose adverts have adorned the den for many, many years. Welcome, Dean Wilson.
Hello, Eamon. Hello, everyone there.
Yeah, great to hear you.
Hello, Dean.
Hello,
Here.
How you doing?
Very well. Great to hear from you.
They're delighted to have you on. In fact, they were complaining that we hadn't got you lined up the morning that you announced that you'd got the award. Anyhow, Dean,
it was a strange morning. Busy that morning.
I'll bet.
Still in shock now, Eamon, if the truth be honest.
It's something to look forward to, and it's something to be proud of. But it's great to have you back, and congratulations on being awarded the MBE, or in full.
Thanks very much.
Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, which is awarded for outstanding achievement or service to the community, both outstanding. How did you find out about being given the award?
Well, because, the times that we're in, it didn't arrive by mail. I got an email in mid-November asking me to look at an attachment from the Cabinet Office, and it said that Her Majesty the Queen wishes to award you the MBE. For public and voluntary service. So I thought it was a scam, to be honest. So I rang the Chancery the next day, gave them all the details, and they confirmed that it wasn't a scam. In fact, it was true. So, yeah, it's mid-November, but you're sworn to secrecy until the 31st of December.
Is there someone hanging around in the background with a,
I think
knife
so,
to cut your throat, just in case?
Someone waiting for you to slip up,
Yeah.
Hello, Dean. It's Ted here.
Hello, Ted.
All right, Dean. Someone hanging around with a guillotine behind you.
Yeah, it does feel like, it's really, really hard, even to tell your family that, what's been awarded to you and what you're going to get. It's such a massive thing for me and the family.
When I see Dean Wilson MBE, I just thought that went Millwall bloke ecstatic. I didn't realise it meant something more.
We'll take it, Ted.
But you must be, you and your family must be over the moon with this recognition. And did you ever dream a trip to? It said, my script says a trip to the Palace. That don't sound right to me. I can't say.
No.
A
The
trip
only
to
Palace
see.
I want to go to is Sellers Park when Millwall playing there. But
exactly, mate. Let's say a trip to see the Queen, mate. It must be.
In all honesty, for a lad growing up in Camberwell and Walworth, going to a fairly rough comprehensive school, you don't get MBEs, do you? And
it was only rough.
I don't know. I know Father Owen's got one. I don't know any more Millwall fans have, but for me, growing up where I did, the school that I went to, and just been, your average bloke, you don't get MBEs, and you certainly don't get invited up to the Palace to meet the Queen.
We'll make sure her hand's very steady. That's be united with a knife, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I'll make sure she's got a steady hand. Man. Well, even with that pinning, mate, got to be careful. You never know where that pin might go through.
Hi, Dean. Gary again. Good to speak to you again. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. You okay?
Yeah, very well.
Good.
So you've been involved in the community for activities over the years through our club, the fire service, and as a funeral director. What stands out the most for you out of all of those?
Well, as Eamon knows, I did my 30 years in the fire brigade, and I retired in July 19, and I did 30 years, and I wouldn't have changed that for the world. I'd do it all again. It was a great career and some great people. The truth be known, I don't really miss the job now, but the people I work with were fantastic, and they're all still there. But alongside that, for 25 years now, I've been a funeral director. But I can give that my full attention now. I haven't got any shifts to do in the fire service. We've looked after loads and loads of Millwall families and hundreds of other families, and it's a strange thing to say, but it's such a worthwhile, rewarding job, funeral director. People come to us and they don't know what to do. They're lost. They're distraught, and you just take it all away from them and get on with it and just help them. So, it goes hand in hand. What I've enjoyed the most and what stands out for me is the fire brigade and being the funeral director.
Excellent.
Well, Dean, when Eamon read out your many achievements and things that you'd achieved, he left out TV star because.
Back in the day when they did the documentary.
Drop the Dead Donkey. Anyone remember that?
Yeah. No, I remember. I think that was probably about 17, 18 years ago now. We were asked to do a series.
Yeah, you must have kept those on a video. Come on.
Oh, I've got them somewhere. Yeah, it was called. It's called "Don't Drop the Coffin." And at first we thought it was going out.
Something else. Don't drop the coffin. Right,
That's it.
You dropped something there, Jeff.
I I deserve that one, didn't I? Yeah, I got that one.
Oh, Jeff, the memory man.
It must be my age. But what?
But that was a strange one. We thought once it was filmed, we'd be going out on some obscure channel early hours of the morning, but it was ITV 8 o'clock every Tuesday for 6 weeks.
Dean, wasn't that Albins though?
It was. That's when I was down. Yeah. That's when I was down at Albins.
Yeah.
Then I left Albins and started up on my own 15 years ago.
Well, Dean, not only have you started it up, you've expanded, and the business seems to be going very, very well. So, successful businessman as well, I think, should go on that list of achievements.
Thank you.
What I would like to ask you about is your involvement with the academy, because, you know, youth development is a subject that is very, very, very close to my heart.
Yeah, I know that.
And I know that at one stage you were quite active there, and were in fact doing the goalkeeper coaching. What can you tell us about your experiences doing that? Did you enjoy it? Who were you really, really impressed with, both as players and staff?
Well, I mean, at the time, you know, back in the 20s, I was playing semi-professional in goal for sort of likes of Dally Jamlet, Fisher. So I went on, did all my coaching badges, got my goalkeeping qualifications, and I got a chance to work with Nicky Milo, Dave Memmett, you know, all those, and even Scott Fitzgerald. I was asked to go into the academy and help out with the goalkeeper coaching, and again, loved every minute of it. I don't know if you remember a goalkeeper called Yusuf. I coached him from when he was 10, and that's my claim to fame. We went on and sold him for £1 million to Liverpool. Then the academy goalkeeping, which would be a couple of nights during the week, and Sundays we do the warm-ups, the coaching, and even now, if I get asked, I'll go and do a bit of goalkeeper scouting as well. So still involved.
So who are we looking at then?
Goalkeeper-wise?
Yeah.
Got any names for me, Eamon? I'll go and watch them.
I'll send you around.
Such a specialised position, and you know you can go and look at a goalkeeper, and he can be massive, fit, but not brave. You can have it the other way round. You know, he's too small but very brave. You've got to get it just right with your goalkeepers.
I was going to say, I hope he wasn't a coach like my old coach, because when I was a kid, I played in goal, and his words to me, it's quite simple, son. Just get in the way of the ball.
That's it. That's the basics. At all costs, stop that ball crossing the line.
I don't care how you do it. Get something in the way of it.
You can get too technical, I
think. I just about understood that. I've got to tell you, Dean.
As a Millwall fan, Dean, as well, who has been your favourite goalkeeper in your time as a spectator at Millwall?
I was a spectator, and my hero was Brian King. He was the first goalkeeper I saw at the Den. I've still got a pair of his gloves. And I used to just sit there. My dad would put me down the front by the wall, and I used to watch him warm up, and I'd be in awe of him. So I think Brian King made me become a goalkeeper. But I think the best keeper for me we've had at the club, Casey Keller. He was an all-round keeper.
I suppose what would complete this year for you would be Millwall to consolidate their championship status, wouldn't it, Dean? Do you think we're going to do it? I said before off air, I think that I'd be happy with a mid-table finish.
Well, do you know what? I was just about to say, for me, it's a mid-table finish. To say we're too good, I think with the squad of players we've got, we are too good to be down there battling relegation. But I don't think we're good enough to be up there in the top 6. So it's a mid-table for me. I mean, we just need to turn some of those draws into wins. I've said it before, he's a top manager and he will get them going. I can't really put my finger on what the problem is at the moment. It's a mid-table finish for me. We won't go down. It's a mid-table finish, but we need to improve the squad.
Dean, we asked Gary Alexander on Christmas Eve about there being 2, even 3 under-23 players on the bench regularly for us, namely Tyler, Junior Ciencia, Hayden Muller, George Alexander, but they just seem at the moment to be just bit part players. Do you think there's a chance they might get more of a look in? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've seen Tyler play and I've seen George play. I mean, George in the 23s, he scores for fun. And Tyler, I've been impressed each time he's come on. So I'd love to see those two get a run. I can't say too much on the others because I haven't seen much of them. But, you know, if we're going to finish mid-table, and as soon as we can't go down, you know, put them in. Put them all in. Let's get them ready and blooded for the next season. You know, we've always been a club that brought youngsters through. We've had fantastic academies. And from what I can see of George and Tyler, they're 2 more exciting prospects.
I feel a bit sorry, Dean, for Billy Mitchell this year because we've you know, we've all sort of gone, oh, Jason Malumbi's gone up to Preston rather than coming to us. But I actually said I could see Billy Mitchell being like Jason Malumbi this year if he'd been fit, because I was so impressed with him last year. So that's been a bit of a blow to us all, I think.
And I mean, when you speak to Billy, I mean, his mentality, he's another Ben Thompson. He's Millwall through and through, loves the club, would run through brick walls for you. You know, he's one of those players that no doubt he will go to another club one day, but it'd break his heart too, I think. But, I mean, if he hadn't had his injuries, he would have been coming on leaps and bounds by now.
I'm sure he'd have been in the first team. I'm positive about that.
I do.
But, have you any other players in mind that you'd like to see us sign? Anybody that floating about there?
You just mentioned him, actually. I was absolutely choked that Jason Malumbi went to Preston because, you know, I think he's one of the best players we've had in years at Millwall. You know, he had everything. He had the aggression, he had the passing, he had the skill, he had the sight. It was everything. So, and I was really hoping that because he wasn't getting the game at Brighton, he'd come back to us. But obviously not. He's gone to Preston.
There's only one other player that's impressed me like him, Dean, and that was Harry Kane when he was here. Sometimes you just see it in these kids that they're quality.
I remember saying when Harry Kane was scoring for us, I remember saying that he's too good for us.
Yeah.
You know, he was, and I think Jason Malumbi is going to be one of those players. And I was a
little bit surprised, Dean, weren't you, that he didn't really get more of a look in at Brighton this year?
Yeah. I mean, I think when he went back to Brighton, he was probably promised the world by the manager there, as in he would get games and get a look in. But I've been watching Brighton play on TV during the week, and I've been looking at the squads, and a lot of the time he's not even in the squad, let alone on the bench.
No.
So, but for a young lad like that, you know, it's just a waste. He needs to be playing football.
What about Zahor, Dean? Would you fancy him?
I haven't seen a lot of him. He's come on in sort of fits and starts, and he's quite aggressive. If I was the manager and we could keep him till the end of the season, I would, and then make a decision. But I haven't seen too much of him. The few times that he has come on, he has looked sort of forward-minded, and he looks quite strong as well. I think everyone can see it this year, that it's our forward line getting opportunities, not burying him.
No, I think you're right there, Dean. Well, it's been brilliant to have you on. A delight to speak to you once again. Since the first time we met, which was about 30 years ago, in my office in Lewisham, when you come for your probation.
I'll call you Sir then, Eamon.
I wasn't knighted. I actually had to tell Gary that the other week when he said something like that. No, seriously, I remember that. And who'd have thought that this young man who had actually done an off-duty rescue at an incident and got commended for it would now end up getting his MBE. Well,
who'd have thought it?
Who'd have thought it? Now, don't forget to polish your fire service medals for your eventual trip to the palace.
And
make sure the ribbons are not frayed but replaced, because I can tell you,
some new ones.
Yeah, because the Queen does have a look. I can tell you from experience.
Do you know what, Dean?
Don't disappoint. I'll get some new ones.
Do you know what, Dean? Once a fireman, always a fireman. I think.
You do. It is. Yeah, so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
What do we call you now, Dean? Is it your honour, your worship? Or...
It's I've been called a few things over the years, especially in the fire brigade. Yeah. So you just carry on calling me whatever you want to call me.
Yeah, we will. But before we say bon chance, what do you think the score will be when the Lions go to Boreham Wood for the first time ever on Saturday? And I've got a stat for you. It's 100 years since we lost our first ever FA Cup tie to a non-league side.
Well, we're going to extend that, I think. I think it's going to go 3-0 Millwall. But, I mean, every cup tie... I mean, you see what we've done to bigger sides at the Den. Every cup tie is a banana skin. I mean, this is their cup final. They really are going to play out their skins, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, if I was having a bet, it'd be 3-0 to Millwall, and get in out for the fourth round and see if we get there.
Let's be hopeful. Thanks, Dean. We wish you and your team all the best in dealing with the many families of the deceased during these challenging times. Lastly, we look forward to having you back on the show in the not-too-distant future. All the best to your family. Take care. Stay safe.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dean. Love to Karen.
Lovely. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was nice, wasn't it, eh? It was good to have him on. Good to have him on.
Yeah, brilliant.
Our sponsor too, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, you got to get that in.
Before we preview Saturday's match away at Boreham Wood in the FA Cup, let's hear what our Henry Morgan and Brett Lewis, I nearly said Brett Sinclair there, as the fan from the opposition, have to say.
Welcome to View from the Opposition. Tonight we're speaking to Brett Lewis, who is a Boreham Wood fan and also author of a book called Amazing Journey, chronicling Boreham Wood's games between 2008 and 2015. Writes a bit for the non-league paper and does some match reports for the Boreham Wood website. Brett, good evening.
Good evening, Henry.
So, going into the third round of the FA Cup, I believe this is the first time Boreham would have been in the third round. Is that correct?
Well, that is correct in our 72-year history.
72-year history. So big day for everyone this weekend, including Gary Rowett's men. There is no history of the fixture. This is the first time the two teams will met. So if their journey to the third round of the FA Cup began at Southend. Well, actually, it did begin before then, but if I talk about the FA Cup...
Yeah, it was Wimborne Town.
But that's Wimborne Town.
And fourth qualifying round. Then penalty shootout against Southend, which they won 4-3. A game then against Canvey Island, which was a 3-0, looks like a canter to me, before being drawn against the Mighty Lions in the third round of the FA Cup. Currently sitting 10th in the National League after 13 games, won 6, drawn 3, lost 4, 16 goals for, 10 goals against, which is the fewest in the league, so maybe a stingy defence. Is that very much so?
Is that, Brett, a sort of a good? Do those numbers paint a full picture of Boreham Wood this season, or what are we missing?
The league table doesn't lie, so yes, I mean that does paint a pretty good picture. You know, there's been, we've won our last 5 games in all competitions, so we're starting to hit. We've recently beaten Hartlepool and Notts County away from home in the league, one after the other. So
big game.
Obviously very good, 2 very big teams, and we've come through with the FA Cup ties. But I think we've been a bit sloppy at times. Some have had defeats by the odd goal at home have been a little bit annoying. You know, I mean, a couple of similar defeats on the road. Yeah. And likewise, we sort of lost 4 games all by 1 goal.
Okay, so small margins and
correct.
Yeah, okay, so you could be even better. I mean, I think I worked out that if you won all of your games in hand, I think Torquay, who are top, have played 4 more matches than you. You could be comfortably second if you won all of those games.
Yes, but there's other teams as well that have got games in hand, so it's all relative, really. And we have to win those games as well to make it pay, shall we say.
And if you were to win those games, who are the players that would be the standout players, and who are the players that Gary Rowett needs to be watching out for on Saturday?
I can't give you our trade secrets, I'm afraid. In all seriousness, we're a team. We've got some very good players. As you say, we've got good defence. We've got outstanding goalkeeper, Nathan Ashmore, who you may have heard of, may have come across.
Yeah, name rings a bell.
Their defence is solid. We played with sort of 2 wing backs. We sort of go forward quite a lot. We've got a player, Sorba Thomas, who's understands sort of sought after by sort of league clubs, and we've got a very good striker, Cabs Shamanga, who was our top goal scorer last year. But we're very much a team. Yeah, we're very much a team. I think you take 1 or 2 players out there, you can replace them with 1 or 2 equally as good players on the bench.
Like, are you quite a physical team? Do you like to try and bring the ball down and pass it? Just for those Millwall fans out there who may not have come across Boreham Wood's style before.
The National League, every team's a physical team. It really is quite a hard league. Lots of up and under, and the ball, ball's in the air quite a lot. There's lots of big strikers. Every team's got big strikers or big defenders. So it's going to be a physical game. I think from our point of view, that would probably be the way that we would approach it, I'd imagine.
Is there anyone that you've heard of or that particularly stands out from the Millwall team that you might need to watch?
Jed Wallace, I've heard some good things about.
Yeah.
Seems to be one of the standout players from my understanding.
Obviously, being a Spurs fan, I'm aware of Troy Parrott.
Yes.
Although I understand he's been struggling for sort of minutes. You know, he showed promise at Tottenham. I was hoping he would sort of kick on there at Millwall, but listen, maybe he will in the second half of the season.
Say fingers crossed for the second half of the season, because we need something at the moment. How about a prediction for this weekend, Brett?
I'd be lynched if I didn't say that I think Bournemouth could win. I'm guessing that we're going to win on penalties after a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Blimey, fantastic. Well, we should...
That's more my heart rather than my head, but...
No,
fingers crossed.
Look, it's the third round of the FA Cup, and Millwall have handed out their fair share of third round upsets. So, you know, being on the receiving end of an upset would definitely not be out of the script for the way our season's going.
I'd be more confident. It'll be a really good cup tie atmosphere if we had supporters in the ground, because you'd bring quite a few, I'd imagine.
You would sell out, yeah, definitely. Brett, look, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me this evening. All the best.
No, thanks, and may the best team win, as long as it's us.
May the best team win. I usually at this point would say best of luck for the rest of the season, but on Saturday I hope you lose 6-0. But I'm not...
Okay, fair enough, and likewise.
No, absolutely. I'm not going to say that this weekend because... Since I've been saying that, we haven't won a game. So, do you know what? I completely agree with you. May the best team win. And I look forward to us maybe catching up and talking about the result of the match at a later date.
Absolutely. Feel free. Absolutely.
He's withdrawn his 6-0 prediction for the first time ever. What do you reckon about you've heard there, and what are your thoughts?
I think it'll be a very tough game. Any team that's won 5 games on the bounce, one at Notts County, one at Hartlepool, beat Barnet last week 3-0, wasn't it? I think I read.
Yeah.
No, we're in for a very, very tough game, and it's their biggest, one of the biggest games in their history. So make no mistake, I think it's going to be very tough, and it'll be down to the character of our lads. These FA Cup ties, they're really difficult, and we've been on the other end of them normally, but this time we're in the firing line. It is what's often cliche called a banana skin. I think it'd be very tough. You always get, with non-league teams, you always find there's a couple of lads from South East London playing for them who've got special reason to want to do well. There's a couple of players that I remember from Dulwich Hamlet in their squad. Kieran Murtagh for one. I don't know if he'll be playing or not. Having said all that, the Lions will win. I've no doubt that we'll win that game.
Ted, what do you think?
Jeff's 100% right. It's a tough one. It's funny, isn't it? We sort of pride ourselves as a team on taking on the big boys in cup matches and go into them games with an expectancy on ourselves because we know we've got nothing to lose. So I don't doubt for 1 minute that Boreham would feel exactly the same way with Millwall coming to their ground. So it is going to be tough. I think it's going to be physically tough. I'm not sure about their pitch, but it might well be a pitch similar to the old days where it's heavy and whatever. But we do have a bit of armoury in that sense. We could stick Matt Smith up front, couldn't we, if it was going to be a physical battle, and there's not many more physical than Matt. If we play to our potential, there's only going to be one winner. But, you quite often find the bigger boys in these games get dragged down a little bit to the level of the team that they're playing, or the team that they're playing drag themselves up to a level that they don't very often get to. So it's going to be difficult. But again, I agree with Jeff. I just got a quiet confidence about this game. I think it might just be what we need.
Gary?
If we can get a reasonable start, get one early, go with a strong squad, should come out about 3 or 4-0 winners. But I think we need an early start. And as Ted said, I think it's what we need. We need a game like this to maybe just give us that kick on again. I do think we should play a few youngsters. I think Burley will get a start. I think McNamara come in, give a few people a rest. And I don't know if it was off air or when we were talking about it earlier. I don't know if Cole mentioned it. Give Frankie Fielding a run. Get him in goal. He's been loyal to the club. Give him 90 minutes.
Jeff, what's your prediction?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Millwall.
2-1 to Millwall. Okay, Gary?
I'm going to stay with him 4-0.
Ted?
I'm actually going to agree with Jeff. I'm going to go 2-1 for the Lions.
Yeah, it's like everybody's going for a win. I'm in for us as winning there. Don't forget, it's on BT Sport Extra 3 if you want to watch it, and that comes out under a number of franchises. If you've got some connections for that. Sadly, not on Millwall iFollow, because they can't get the cameras in. Don't forget, you can hear Henry reviewing the match on Sunday with Brett Lewis. Links will be available on our social media sites. We'll take a break there and listen to the challenging, I think, voice of Patricia Maslin.
Hi, Patricia Maslin here. The Millwall Community Trust needs volunteer help. Whether you're an organisation with bodies able to assist or an individual, the Trust needs you during the current conditions to support the vulnerable and needy. If you can help make a difference or need help, please contact Sean Daly, the Trust's Chief Executive Officer, by phone on 07 958 027060. Once again, that's 07 958 027060. Or contact by email sdaly, I'll spell that, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. I'll repeat that, sdaly, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you can, or you know someone or any organisation who might be able to help, please let the Community Trust know. Thank you.
I'm Eamon Barclay, and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Jeff Burnage. And seriously, if you can help as individuals or people that are not working, and a group of you can come together, if you work for an organisation, the Trust seriously needs your help to deliver to the vulnerable during this lockdown. Please get in touch with Sean Daly. They do a great job. People continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus or as a consequence of suffering with it. Deaths and infections continue to rise at an incredible rate, whilst many more feel and remain hospitalised too. Our thoughts go out to their families, friends and those that take care of them. And I'd just like to say RIP to Matt McClory, brother of former colleague of mine, who lost his fight against the virus.
There are so many fans who want to support the club, and you can help by joining the Lions Loyalty Club. It costs £40 with benefits. For £25, you or a member of your family can also become a crowdie. For £103.95, you can be a virtual mascot with benefits. And why not sponsor a player's kit for £570 with benefits? All the details and more can be found on the Millwall Club website. Lastly, don't forget to follow iFollow on Tuesday night when Cole Bates returns with our visit to Bournemouth. 100% of what you pay, less taxes for the internet streaming service, home or away, goes back to Millwall Football Club. What a great way to improve their revenue in these very, very challenging times.
Next Friday, Gary Staff will host. Good luck, Gal, because he's got Grumpy George Lampy, Red Stan Godwin, and the lovely Bethany Warren. Scott Johnson, the founder of the Proper Blokes Club, is looking for guys to come along and join him to break the stigma of men's mental health with walk and talk groups. Being in a lockdown means walks will continue, but on a one-to-one basis. Check out the Proper Blokes Club on Twitter and Facebook for further details.
Just one thing more, don't forget everyone, neither Millwall Lionesses nor the Romans are playing football at the moment under the current restrictions. Great pity. Looks like being for some time. Nonetheless, player sponsorship for the Lionesses is still available. It is very reasonable, and it's something you should consider doing either individually, jointly or as a company. Why not share the burden around? We have led by example and sponsored their captain, Libby Stubbs, who you heard at the beginning of the programme. And with that, good night from me, and keep safe.
Lastly, let's not forget, keep it safe on the streets out there. Follow the lockdown guidance. Social distancing when outside, and a face mask wherever necessary. That's it for me. Thanks, Gary, Ted and Jeff. Until the next time, good night.